I am not afraid to say that I believe widespread personal live streaming from smartphones with services like Facebook and Periscope is the first sign of the apocalypse. Yes, there are joyful success stories like that of Candace Payne live streaming her unboxing of that Chewbacca mask. Who could forget? But more often than not, we hear about people live streaming some pretty awful acts, and it makes you wonder if these people might not have committed these acts if they weren't live streaming them. What can you do about that? People are horrible. But maybe if people watching and commenting weren't so horrible, people wouldn't be less likely to be horrible on the live stream. I don't know. Today, Twitter-owned Periscope announced real-time comment moderating. They call it lightweight, but I find it rather complicated having tried to use it today. It's better than nothing, though. As a viewer of a live stream, you can now report an offensive comment, and then a randomly chosen group of other people watching the stream can vote on whether or not they think that that comment is offensive. So I don't know if it's not working yet or if my app hasn't updated yet. I tried to use it, and it's surprisingly easy to find an offensive comment on Periscope.
Is it?
Here's a tip. Click on one of the streams of a younger woman, and that's where you will find most of the offensive comments. But I couldn't figure out, and so I'm assuming that it's not working yet, because I tried to tap it, and it just said block. It didn't give, it's supposed to say abuse, spam, or other reason. I don't know. What do you, Becky, what do you think about this live moderating?
Well, I do think whenever you're live streaming, you're putting yourself out there in a big way. And so it's a barrier to entry to think that people are going to abuse you in the comments. And so these companies have a vested stake in making commenting much more civil. Now, as it stands right now, Periscope will let someone ban a commenter, or they can choose proactively to only let people comment if they're people that the broadcaster already follows, so known entities. But I don't think those tools are very commonly used. So the idea of crowdsourcing the appropriateness of comments, it sounds in the way that they're actually talking about the manifestation to be a little bit laborious. So if, let's say there's 10 viewers on the live stream, someone makes a comment that's marked as abusive, then some of those other viewers are then tapped to vote on whether they think that comment is abusive. If they all vote that it is abusive, then that's put out to the entire audience whether they think it's abusive, and then it's voted on again. And then Periscope says from this point, it should only take a minute or so for all of that to happen. That sounds like a lot of stuff happening for what is a relatively vapid service. It seems involved to me, don't you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I had not spent a lot of time consuming Periscope live streams, but I did that today, and I was amazed by how many people are live streaming themselves smoking pot or texting while driving, or just
I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Or just like hanging out in their living room talking about stuff. But I get where they're coming from, because there was some comments that I was like, wow, that sounds really abusive. But I also felt like I was in a world that I don't really belong. Like a lot of, I don't understand this, a lot of the communities that I entered in, and maybe that's just how they treat each other. So maybe
Megan, I mean, to start with, the offenses you just listed were so innocuous compared to the chat roulette days. I mean, I haven't seen that much sausage since Oktoberfest. So the fact of the matter that you didn't see that tells me things are getting better out there. So let's put that in.
Okay, good.
As parents, I think actually one thing that all three of us will agree is, because we all have multiple kids, you have to let your kids work it out for themselves unless you really think one child is terrorizing another. And so I think that there's a sense that not only is this, a much more lucrative business model to let the users actually police themselves, but I think Periscope made a good point that you don't really know if something's offensive unless you're actually watching the entire broadcast and you know the context of what's happening. And so there is a point to be made that those who can best police content are those who are most familiar with it. And those are the people who are in it and in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment, context is a huge aspect here. Also from the sense that not all live streams are the same, right? So something in one live stream might actually be offensive, let's say, but in another live stream might actually, be appropriate for the content that you're watching. So they're not, just cleaning it all with the same kind of broom, whatever you want to say there. I also think that broadcasters are given the chance to kind of focus on the content itself and not be part of this policing. I actually really think this is an interesting concept. And if it's early days and it has some issues right off the top because it's new, like I'd be willing to forgive that and kind of see how it pans out, because I mean, we all know Twitter needs help in this regard too. And this is a Twitter-owned property. I don't know how this formula could be applied to something like Twitter, but I don't know. I actually think it's a pretty great move to take the community that's super connected to this stuff and kind of put them to work a little bit. If they're really engaged with the content, they're going to be okay with that. I mean, it's a part of what we do here at TWiT, actually. The chat room is totally community moderated. It's moderated by, we don't control or operate that ourselves. That's done by fans of the network. And this is pretty effective. So,
but it's not done on a community basis. There's a group of people that have been chosen, not randomly chosen.
Right.
As
they've figured that out, though, right?
Yeah.
The community that is in the chat room has figured out to that point, and we aren't involved. We are left to create content. I guess that's my point, and that's great to not have to be kind of pulled into that, because that pulls you out of other things, I suppose.
The one element of this that I see as a sort of a barrier here to making this as effective as you're talking about, Jason, is that the consequence in the Periscope model is very limited. The only consequence is that, let's say you have someone who's trolling a live broadcast, is that if the group decides that that person is making abusive comments, that their ability to chat or to comment is disabled for the remainder of the broadcast. So anyone who's a serial troll is just going to click onto the next one, and it's hard to see from what they published so far how that will help stop that on a more global or systemic level.
They hit 100 reactions from however many streams. We've decided to disable your account for 3 days.
100 troll points. Who wins?
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, in some sense, it's the same as what's going on on Twitter versus Facebook. Like, there weren't a bunch of horrible people criticizing Candace Payne because you're more accountable on Facebook. You are, you mostly have to use your real name, and you're connected with your grandmother and your aunt and your kids, and you're going to be, I mean, as we talked about this, there are still horrible people saying horrible things on Facebook, but there are fewer of them. So
I'm so torn on the issue of trolls, because I think coming up, or, maybe it's not trolls, that's an overgeneralization, but people making negative comments. Someone who, has, as both of you do, has been in the public eye in putting themselves out there, whether it's in print or video or on TV or whatever, you're going to get a lot of feedback. Yeah. And you sort of learn to approach it the same way that you do when you're deciding if you're going to buy a product on Amazon. Like, ignore all the 5 stars, ignore all the 1 stars, just read the 2 through 4s. So if someone starts out hating, then you just like, okay, whatever. But you can actually learn a lot from the middle folks. And so at the same time, I really don't want if my kids decided they wanted to put themselves out there, it would just be so hard to see them have to go through that same process. And I don't know. I mean, I eventually came to terms with it when I had a Yahoo article up with like 1,200 comments, which was pretty normal back when we were doing the big Yahoo pieces. And right back to back were two comments that really it summed up for me how hard it is to take comments seriously. And that's the moment where I was like, I'm never going to worry about comments again, which was the first person said, damn, this chick's hot. And the second person said, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, okay,
but I don't know what to do with this one.
Clearly, between the two of you, the truth lies, but neither extreme is worth me even paying attention to.
Fair enough.